Okay, so very similar in terms of when we're minimizing the modulus of z with the perpendicular bisector. So we're again minimizing the distance from the loci that we've just drawn and the origin. So in this case, it's going to be a perpendicular line to the perpendicular bisector. And we already know the gradient of the perpendicular bisector because we calculated it. And so we know the line of the perpendicular line. So we know it goes through 0, okay? So when we're minimizing the distance, we know that we've got the line here, and then we just need to find the distance, so we also need to know this coordinate here, okay? Again, it's just fairly straightforward coordinate geometry that we're applying to our loci. So if we're looking at the arg of z, so we remember that the arg of z, if it's pi over 6, we've essentially got an angle. We've got pi over 6 as our angle. Now, our equation for this, we know that z is an x and a y, and so we know that it's a tan of the y over the x. So we can rearrange. We know the x. We know what the angle is, pi over 6. So we have a formula that we can calculate. Okay. Now we call this a half line because it extends to infinity, but only in one direction. Okay. Because essentially we know that x has got to be greater than 0, y has got to be greater than 0. All right, because it basically terminates at the origin. Okay. With a slightly more complicated, now if we think about what this looks like, we've got a translation of exactly the same thing. So our angle is still 3 pi over 4. This is the angle. Now remembering that we start with the horizontal, and if it's positive, we go in an anti-clockwise direction, and if it's negative, we go in a clockwise direction. So this is the angle here, 3 pi over 4, because obviously a vertical line would be pi over 4, pi over 4, pi over 2, sorry. So now all that's happened is it's translated the same angle, instead of being at the origin, well, it's translated it so that the angle starts at -3, -2. So when we rearrange it, so we've got a z minus a z1, and the signs have changed. This is the translation, effectively. Okay, and so our Cartesian is basically the line of this, but we have a domain for it where it starts. Okay, and also a range. Okay, so we know that it has to start at here. So our domain is less than 3 and our range is greater than 2. Okay.